What's up guys, and welcome to the channel. Today we are taking a look at two of the best speed day shoes on the market right now. In one corner we have the Adidas Takumi Sen, and in the other we have the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. Let's get into it. Both of these are the respective brands' speed day options for up-tempo training efforts, and in the case of the Adidas, this is also positioned as a 5K, 10K racer. The Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is part of Saucony's Endorphin line, which is characterized by this nice forefoot rocker. It's called Speed Roll Geometry, while the Takumi Sen is part of Adidas's Adi Zero collection, which is their lightweight performance running shoe lineup. Alright guys, let's dive into the midsole comparison. So the midsole of the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is made with Saucony's PWRRUN PB compound, which is a PEBA-based material, which is the same type of material that's in shoes like the Nike Vaporfly, the Nike Alphafly. In the case of the Saucony, it's a beaded compound, so you can see these little pellets all throughout the midsole, and it's a full-length bed of PWRRUN PB. There's also this winglet plate in here, which you can see. This black piece right here is the wings coming up on the side. It's a nylon plate, which adds some structure and stability to the platform. When I'm running in it, I personally don't get a ton of pop and responsiveness from the plate, but I do feel that it reinforces it to give it a little bit more stable landings. We're gonna have their Lightstrike Pro foam in here, which is their super foam. It's also in shoes like the Boston 12. It's also in shoes like the Adidas Pro 3 and across their performance racing lineup. In here, it's super lightweight, bouncy, responsive, and it's reinforced by these carbon fiber rods, which you can see here, these little pink things, which are Adidas's version of a carbon fiber plate. Alright, moving on to the upper. This is where we're gonna see the biggest difference between the two. The upper of the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is super stretchy, airy, lightweight, and comfortable. You can see as I do this close up here, there's a bunch of holes in it that let it breathe. It's also pretty stretchy. Let's see if I can put if I put my hand in here, you can see that it's easily stretching out. So it's gonna be pretty forgiving for all types of runners. In general, the fit is pretty normal. It's got a decently wide midfoot and forefoot, and this toe box area especially is pretty voluminous. You're not gonna have any trouble with fitting your foot in it, and because the upper is so stretchy, you don't get that tight, constrained feeling. Moving around to the back, the heel lock down in this thing is absolutely fantastic. It's probably the best fitting upper of any of the shoes in my collection, and I have quite a few, so that's quite high praise for this guy. And there's a bit of a structured piece element right here. This is a nice little reflective element on the back, which is good for early morning running, and it also adds some rigidity. If you see as I'm pushing it forward, it's not really gonna collapse at all. Now moving on to the Adidas Takumi Sen upper. This is where the shoe kind of falls apart. It's not the most comfortable upper. It is super snug, and the last of this, the way that it fits in general, is just gonna be really tight. So I always like to say, with this one, it feels like your foot is the sausage inside a casing, just ready to bust out. So it's not gonna be the most comfortable feeling, but once you warm up to it and get into those race paces, those interval paces, it is a more comfortable ride. If we try to get a little stretchy action here, you can see I'm not getting much stretch from this material. It's a firmer, more rigid, almost canvas type of deal where it's not gonna stretch at all. Around the back, it's a lot less structured, and I can easily just push it down here. The purpose of this is, of course, more race oriented and fast oriented, so that's why the upper is extremely stripped down and lightweight. The differences in the upper is one of the main reasons why we see a bit of a weight difference between the two. The Takumi Sen's got an ounce or so weight reduction versus the Speed 3. I'll throw up the numbers on the screen here, but it is gonna feel a bit lighter weight and lower profile on foot. Before we head out of the upper section, I wanted to touch on the lacing as well. So the laces on the Speed 3 are super stretchy, soft, no lace bite whatsoever, while the lacing system on the Takumi Sen is a bit of a mess. When they send it to you from the factory, it's also laced the wrong way, so you're gonna wanna redo it, send the laces up through the holes. The laces are pretty hard, and there's not a lot of room in the upper in general, so they can bite when you cinch them down. So that's just something to be aware of. Like I said, once you warm up into it, that feeling kind of goes away, but it is there, it is present, especially in those warm up miles. Alright guys, moving down to the outsole here, we can see that the Endorphin Speed 3 has a solid covering of this XT900 rubber, though there are some pieces cut out to save weight. It's strategically placed, as they say, and on the medial side, up in the midfoot, there's no rubber. The Adidas has a similar thing going on, but there's a bit more surface area covered in the forefoot, but it's going to be a thinner layer of that rubber. The Adidas has the Continental rubber, which is a super grippy, it's an awesome compound, gives you a lot of traction, toe off. It's also very flexible, so it doesn't add any more rigidity to the outsole and midsole component of the shoe, whereas the Saucony's is their standard rubber. It's the XT900, it's in the Triumph, Shift, Pro, etc. It's not as great as the Adidas Continental, but I never really have an issue with rubber. But just note that the Takumi Sen is going to feel a little bit better out there for those wet days. Alright, let's get down to the ride. The ride of the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is going to be a bit more friendly and approachable. It's designed almost with a daily trainer-like feel. The upper and the way that this is constructed in general gives me that everyday running sensation. It does have a bit of pop and pickup due to it being a super foam, but because it uses a nylon plate instead of a carbon plate, it's not going to be as harsh as something like the Vaporfly or the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3. The Takumi Sen, on the other hand, has a super razor-like feel. I do not like using this for even my warm-ups when I'm going a bit above marathon pace. This really shines at half marathon paces and below. I actually raced a half marathon in this. I wish I picked something different because it's not the most comfortable shoe for those miles 10 to 13 when you might be getting some fatigue in your leg. You want a bit more cushion and protection. This is a very minimalist feeling, and because it has a lower stack, 33 in the heel and 27 up in the forefoot with those carbon fiber plates, it's very firm and rigid, but extremely responsive. When I'm running with the Takumi Sen, it feels just like pure simplicity. When I'm running with the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3, I can feel like this is helping me along with the ride, whereas the Takumi Sen really feels like it's gonna give you as much as you give it. You gotta push it to get some feedback. The Endorphin Speed 3 is not like that. This will help you along, this will baby you, and this will pamper your legs. Alright, in terms of what these are both best for, Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 is going to slot in as that faster daily, that faster everyday running option when you want something that's a little bit more exciting than say a Nike Pegasus or a Saucony Ride or an Audi Zero SL, whereas the Adidas Takumi Sen is going to slot in as that Tuesday track day shoe, what you want to pull for when you have mile repeats, 400s, 800s. This is really going to be for those short bouts of working, those intervals. You're not going to want to use this for say a 6-mile tempo. Something like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 or a similar super trainer would be better for that. If you're a super efficient runner or you don't have a carbon fiber plated max stack super shoe, then you could get away with racing the Takumi Sen. For me, because I have the Saucony Endorphin Pro 3 and the Nike Vaporfly, I prefer to race in those, but this will do just fine for 5Ks, 10Ks. You can even do a half marathon like I did in this, but I would not recommend it. Same thing goes for the Endorphin Speed 3. If you don't have a carbon fiber plated shoe, if you're a newer runner, I actually recommend the Endorphin Speed 3 a lot to newer runners who want something they can train in to do fast miles and can race in. The Endorphin Speed 3 is great for that, but if you have a carbon fiber plated shoe in your collection like Asics Metaspeed Sky or New Balance SC Elite V3, this is not going to be the best option for racing. Save this for those daily training miles when you want to pick it up and go faster. Alright guys, so there we have it. That is our comparison between the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3 and Adidas Takumi Sen. Let me know in the comments if you've tried either of these. Also let me know what you want me to compare next. I have a bunch of cool videos coming out, so I'll make sure to keep you up to date on everything going on in the world of performance running if you like and subscribe.